mosaic. The ancient mind did not see material science as separate from conscious or spiritual science. Everything was connected and easier to understand. It's a more efficient way to think, and it's more fun to learn. I would like for that to come back. I've only got a minute to hold your attention. I'm hearing yes, squirrel. So if anything in this video blew your mind, this goes way deeper. I make explainer videos with it, and it's super cheap because my birthday is in a few days. You can find it in that link right there. And please remember, nobody loves you more than I do. Yeah, everything is energy, right? The blueprint is what that looks like. And, like he was talking, we see all these symbols over buildings, everywhere, right? And crop circles, things like mandalas. And when you see them in a 2D, well, right, they're flat, but I think they're actually representing a 3D, picture, right? Which is interesting when you look at a lot of the crop circles and blow them into a 3D depiction of geometry. They are repeating these patterns that we see everywhere, right? Flower of life, the Merkaba, the sacred geometry shapes. It's all the same, and this is what we have lost. But these allies, they still have this information, or at least some of it, right? So this is what we've got to get back to. So that was baseforge.us. I think I'm going to have to grab his book. Interesting guy, right? With some good information. And thanks for joining me, guys. Campbell here, autodidactic, and of course, autodidactic means to be self-educated. And that's what we do here. We check out what's going on in this strange realm we find ourselves in and make up our own minds, right? Collect the information, run it through our own filters, and come to our own perspective, because that's really the only perspective that counts. Right? You've got to know your own thoughts on things. And of course, give me a like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. So this is an Iranian temple, and if you look at the ceiling, you'll see these geometric patterns and colors. The reason why they did this is because they're basically showing you visualizations of the higher realms of consciousness. If you take DMT, this is the sort of things that you see. When you take DMT, you are shot out of your physical body, then you more than likely go to a higher mental plane. And this is exactly what the mental plane looks like. It is created through thoughts and thought forms and vibrations. Very difficult to put in English words, but these temples were built thousands of years ago, and they're showing you higher dimensions of consciousness. Interesting. I've often wondered what all these ceilings, the really intricate ones like the one we just saw, what they were there for. Were they some, I kind of figured it was some kind of thing based on frequency and harmonics, but it could be, right? These are definitely the shapes you see. I have never had DMT myself. I've had other plant medicines, shall we say, and you definitely see these geometric patterns, right, and these very colourful, interactive shapes, right? So interesting. Is this what you've seen? Have you had DMT? Let me leave your thoughts in the comments below what your experience was. But also, when you just close your eyes, right, you see those same kind of geometric shapes. And this also goes back to the first video, right? Just showing us that there was a different type of knowledge and wisdom around in the old world. But of course, we don't get that now with science and seance, because they don't even acknowledge it either. That's why they can't. Because as soon as they do, we know that free energy is real. The Crystal Palace, built in 1851 for the London's World Fair. And they tell us that all of this was built as nothing more than a temporary structure. And despite glass not being industrialized until the late 19th century to 20th century, really, this was the greatest area of glass ever seen in an enclosed building, and was nearly 3 times the size of the St. Paul's Cathedral. To put it into perspective, that's the St. Paul's Cathedral. So it's 990,000 square foot structure, complete with full room trees, and house over 19,000 exhibits alone in the structure. They decided, unlike so many of the other amazing structures built originally to be temporary at the World's Fairs, this one was not going to be temporary, but it didn't stay at its original location for long. It was torn down and reconstructed constructed elsewhere. And of course there, like so many of our other monumentous achievements from the past, it caught fire and was tragically lost in the 1930s. We don't build such an elaborate structure without the machining of glass, anything like that in modern times like we have, complete with elaborate forest, only to deconstruct it and move it on somewhere else down the line. These World's Fairs, just like the one in London, nothing more than a celebration of the conquerors. Or as the quote by Napoleon goes, history is a set of lies agreed upon. These statues, the grounds, the glass required for this crystal palace. Does anything in this picture look temporary? Does anything look like it's able to be easily deconstructed with no power tools, no heavy machinery, and then reassembled? You can see very much so why this became that. Truth is often stranger than fiction, especially the fiction that we've been told as history. To research the mud flood and fall of Tartaria, dig up our true past, friend, and question everything. Until next time. Yes, always question his story. The Crystal Palace, I've done some videos on this on my main channel, autodidactic, link below. And it's, like you said, it's a dumb story. It really is. I mean, at first they moved it, right? It was this massive construction. They moved it and then it was iron and glass and it burnt down. Now, just think of them moving it, like moving glass panels in the 1850s, or I think it was 1850s when they moved it. Horse and buggy, right? Glass. You're going to be doing well if you get there and the glass isn't broken, is what I'm trying to say. Especially when you realise that the story is that the glass on the Crystal Palace was 5 millimeters thick. And here it is. It says here, the glass being something that does light up. The sheets of glass measured 49.10 inches and were 1/16 of an inch. I got it wrong. It was actually 1.5 millimeters thick, not 5. 1.5 mil thick in 1850. And I've looked into this. They didn't have the technology to make glass like that, let alone the volume of glass. And of course, it was designed by Joseph Paxton, who was basically a gardener who built, apparently, an amazing greenhouse, and then went on to design. He wasn't an architect, but to design the biggest glass and iron construction ever that we know about. This is pretty crazy stuff. It's a very, very crazy story. And interesting that it was designed, apparently, allegedly, by a gardener, right? It was into greenhouses, because there's lots of, conjecture, talk about what was the Crystal Palace, what was it originally built for. And many people put forward the airship hangar theory, which it may be, may not. I'm not sure why it would be glass, but, obviously the shape of it, the big doors. But I've always thought it was a greenhouse. And there's photos with fully grown trees in there. So it could have just been a wholeheartedly agree with everything she has said. She has basically laid it all out. And it's so true. I mean, I'm sure that everyone watching this understands and can see what's going on. You know, we are in the apocalypse, right? The great unveiling. And the thing is, this stuff has been going on, right, for at least a couple of hundred years, right? At least since the last reset, since the invasion. And now we see it, right? It's always been going on. But now we see it because the veil is lifted. But it is time to stand up, right? And as far as, you know, the world ending and the world existing, you know, with just robots, and I'm not sure that that's even possible because everything's frequency, right? Everything's vibration, everything's spirit, and that's not present in robots. And the L tech, right? The L electronics, the L circuit of the L arts, who brings the L act into power, like it's all in the spells, right? But yeah, we are definitely at a point where we need to act differently if we want something different. But please, leave me your thoughts below. I would love to hear.
Go to work, get married, have children, act normal, walk on the pavement, watch TV, obey the law, save your old age, then repeat after me, I am free. Slavery, it works better when you don't tell them. It's all a mind game. William Casey, CIA director, will know when our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. They don't call it television programming, but nothing. What if all you ever knew was a lie? right. Oops. Okay. Uh, oh, Do 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 do. Wah 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 wah. Wah 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 wah. Wah 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 wah. Wah 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 wah. Oh, wah 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 wah. Do 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 do. Wah wah wah. Wah 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 wah. Wah 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 wah. Wah 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 wah. Oh, wah 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 wah. Wah 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 wah. Oh, wah wah wah. Wow wow. Wow 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 wow. Wow 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 wow. Wow 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 wow. Wow 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 wow. Wow wow. Wow 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 wow. Wow 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 wow. Wow 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 wow. Wow 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 wow. Wow 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 wow. Wow 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 wow. Wow 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 wow. Wow wow wow. Wow 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 wow. Wow 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 wow. No, 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 no. Wow, 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 wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wow, 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 wow. Um, down, down, down. All right, enough of that. I'm tired. Ah, man. Yeah. Uh, smoke break. Smoky, smoky, smoke break. Smoky, smoky, smoke break. Shit, I gotta switch vapes, man. Just wait about. Mm, 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 mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm, 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 mm. Mm. Can't believe they want to ban this, man. Can't believe Congress, man. No. Salute to Senator Cruz, man. I'm about to start putting these politicians on notice that that are not for the legalization of marijuana. Leave the hemp alone, man. Leave us alone, man. We don't want those pharmaceutical drugs. We don't want we don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want to drink alcohol. You know what I mean? I want to smoke. I want to, yeah, I want to smoke, man. I don't want to do all of that, man. Leave us stoners alone, man. You know, this world's already fucked up, man. We trying to escape this reality, man. This simulation, man. And y'all want us to be fucking on some psych meds and some on y'all man-made pharma drugs. Forget y'all, man. Forget y'all alcohol, those spirits that's in the alcohol. I don't want them spirits in me. You know what I'm saying? I don't want them spirits in me, man. See, when you smoke weed, you get clarity. That's why. That's what they doing. Because they know more people are waking up to the bullshit, man. When you smoke, man, when you smoke marijuana, marijuana wakes you up, man. Marijuana wakes you up from the BS, man. That's why I don't be falling for no BS on these sector shit, man. Yeah, that's why I don't be falling for the plays, the gimmicks, the lies. I see through all that, man. You know what I'm saying? When you smoke, you see through all that. But when you drink, yeah, when you're a drunk, you know, you play along, you go along with the get along, man. But when you smoke weed, man, like you got clarity, man. You got a sense of clarity, man. Yeah, just clarity. That's the word of the night, man. That's the word of the day of the night, man. Clarity, clarity. All right, clarify. Yeah. Do 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 do. Wow 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 wow. Wow 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 wow. Wow 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 wow. Wow, 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 wow. Now, why the hell would you? Hold on. This on me. Wow, 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 wow.
His predecessor was in office when Epstein struck the controversial sweetheart deal in 2008. Senior reporter for The Bulwark, who has covered Magda's response to the Epstein story, Will Summer, and the editor-in-chief of All Rise
Yo,
News,
Trump,
Adam
man.
Grasfeld, he covered the Ghislaine Maxwell
Yo,
trial
Trump,
as in
dog.
studio today.
What's
I'm going to
good,
begin with
man?
you, Dave, on
What's
this
going
because
on,
these newly
man?
released documents, I mean, they appear to create more questions than answers. And you say that some people should be worried tonight. What are you talking about?
This is karma, Trump. This is karma. You're doing that Space Force shit. Space is fake. Yeah, stop playing with God, man. Yeah, stop playing with God, man. Space is fake. Space is fake. NASA lies. Fake X, not Space X. It's fake X. They fake in space, man. Space is fake. The sun and moon are the same size. The firmament dome is real. There's no space. Space is fake. And God's getting tired of it, man. God's like, all right, release those Epstein files. Yeah, man, I love it. I want all of y'all taken down. That's why they're coming up with all of these
These androids, man. I think they're going to take over Congress. I think robots are going to run Congress, not humans, man. Imagine that, yo. AI robots running Congress. I believe. I wonder, do you see it that her words are so contradictory from what Epstein says he saw in his house that it would remove the possibility of a commutation? I don't know if the commutation is actually connected at all to the truthfulness of her testimony. I mean, Trump's pattern of delivering pardons and commutations are much more geared toward loyalty to Donald Trump. And so I agree with Dave here on this in the sense that there is no way to read what this email says as at all consistent with what she told Todd Blanche, but that wasn't the assignment. The assignment with Todd Blanche was to distance Trump from this scandal, and that's what she did. And I don't think that's going to be part of a thoughtful consideration by one Ed Martin in the pardon attorney office. You know, I wonder because her statements talked about not having recollection and all the different statements she was making, and then her email saying, "I have been thinking about that" with respect to Epstein's own words. Again, she's a convicted criminal at this point, and for the reasons the jury found and the court found. Will, President Trump has consistently denied any wrongdoing. Then there's this moment where Epstein alleges Trump knew of his conduct, saying, of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Elaine to stop. And then I know how dirty Donald is. And some, I mean, how does the MAGA base see this? I mean, those are some very weird emails. Yeah. Some of them precede Trump's political career. So, sort of, what would the advantage to Epstein be of if he was making this up in emails? It's unclear. But it's not clear what it means that he knew about the girls. Exactly, and I mean, Epstein has a very kind of cryptic writing style, very clipped, so it's often hard to see exactly what he's up to. In this case, I think the past few months we've seen since the initial Epstein blow-up in July, when the DOJ tried to close this case, I think the Trump administration's efforts to suggest that being interested in the Epstein case is just sort of a liberal plot or fiction. I think that creates some truth to the administration. I think Thank you. A lot of people in the media say, well, this is a Democratic distraction. How will the vote go next week? Well, I think the Republicans who have supported the discharge petition will stick with it. And I think these emails do put more pressure on Republicans in general to follow through and to at least investigate to some extent. Dave, you're a prosecutor. You know the investigation process quite well. I mean, there's a lot of the politics at play, as you know. But then it's the idea of the Epstein files, the Epstein estate, excuse me. It was the DOJ that released these documents to the House Oversight Committee. Congressman Ropana is questioning why the DOJ criminal context possibly. Of Virginia Frey at Mar-a-Lago in court proceedings in Ghislaine Maxwell's trials. We had seen the flight logs. What happened today, what was made clear from the emails from NC's state, is that And he said, yes, he knew about the girl. The suspicion.
Oh.
The knowledge. That's it's a key piece of the puzzle. That's what makes it such a large. The fact that Lincoln Ray in the past of the chief did that throw water on I don't think so at all. I think it's the point wasn't about whether that victim is part of any wrongdoing in that room. It was about his knowledge. And that was the concept. It didn't matter who was behind that redaction. It was who was the dog who had an arm. Did Trump know about the girls? And that's what made these particular emails so explosive. They went to the Situation Room today. It strikes me that this must be the elevated concern in the White House to bring in a congressperson, Lauren Boebert, to bring in the FBI director, the Attorney General, Todd Blanche as well. Tell me about the level of concern in the White House tonight. I think it's clear that the administration is very concerned about the story. I mean, this is a full court press to try to convince Lauren Boebert to drop out, and to her credit, I think she did. But you don't want when she said, when you push her that much, she's sort of going to dig in, for one aspect of it. But it's almost unprecedented, I think, to have one member of Congress in to get sweated by so many people, high up people in an administration, on an issue that the administration and Mike Johnson claim they don't really care about. We know Trump has said, oh, Epstein, you don't hear that name much anymore. So, the public face they put on is, oh, this doesn't matter. But privately, it's obvious they're very concerned about it. They're bringing in some of the highest level and powerful people in the DOJ on this very issue. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, man, I charge this phone.
This hour with breaking news. CNN has learned that convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein mentioned Donald Trump by name multiple times in private emails released today by House Democrats. And those emails from Epstein were sent to his longtime associate Ghislaine Maxwell, who's now behind bars after being convicted of sex trafficking, as well as author Michael Wolff. In one message, Epstein claims that Donald Trump spent hours at Epstein's house with a woman who Democrats describe as an Epstein sex trafficking victim. House Republicans later identified her as Virginia Giuffre, an Epstein survivor who, remember, died by suicide earlier this year. Here's what the White House press secretary had to say just a short time ago on this. Have a listen. These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. And we do want to point out that Mr. Trump did not send or receive any of those emails, and he has not been accused of any criminal wrongdoing. Democrats, along with some of Mr. Trump's Republican allies on Capitol Hill, such as Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, have been calling for the White House and the Justice Department to release all of the files related to the Epstein case. I want to bring in our senior White House reporter, Kevin Liptak, for more on this. So, Kevin, just let's take a step back here and just talk us through the emails and how they came to light, first of all. Yeah, and these emails were released because the House Oversight Committee subpoenaed Jeffrey Epstein's estate. It was a bipartisan subpoena, so signed by Republicans and Democrats, and they received this enormous trove of documents, 23,000 approximately, and three of them have been released now by Democrats. Now, after the Democrats released these three, the Republicans released the remainder of the emails, so, more than 20,000 emails that we're sifting through now. But we do have these three emails that the Democrats released this morning that sort of mention Trump at various moments. They date back to 2011. And so the first one is from that year. So this would have been when Trump was a reality television star, a real estate mogul, but certainly years before he was running for office. And in this first email, Epstein is writing to Ghislaine Maxwell, the now convicted sex trafficker who's serving time in Texas. And he writes, I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim, the Democrats redacted the name victim. Republicans now say that this is Virginia Giuffre. Victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 95% there. To which Ghislaine Maxwell replied, I have been thinking about that. So that's the first email from 2011. Fast forward about 4 years to 2015. This is an exchange between Jeffrey Epstein and Michael Wolff. He's a journalist, he's an author, he has written books about President Trump. Michael Wolff tells Jeffrey Epstein that he hears CNN is planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you. This is the day of a presidential debate, either on air or in scrum afterwards, to which Epstein replies, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it would be? And then Michael Wolff goes on to kind of explain what his tactics he thinks should be. Now, we should note that we went back to look at that debate. Epstein never came up in that. So it's not clear where he got his information, but it's important to note that. Fast forward another 4 years to 2019. This is when President Trump is serving his first term in office. This is another email from Jeffrey Epstein to Michael Wolff in which he references Mar-a-Lago. And he goes on to say, Trump said he asked me to resign, never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. And that seems to be a reference to what President Trump has talked about publicly. Story that President Trump has. Of course, we know that President Trump was well acquainted with Jeffrey Epstein, as were many celebrities in the 1990s. I think it's more important to sort of put this in the political context, which is the furor that has been ongoing on Capitol Hill as Democrats and a few Republicans pushed the Trump White House and the Trump administration to release more information about Jeffrey Epstein. These emails are only going to inflame that debate as it heats up. And we did hear, of course, from Caroline Levitt in the last half an hour or so. She said the emails prove absolutely nothing other than Trump did nothing wrong. But an important context on this, as you and I have reported, have been talking over the last several months, this administration has faced a political firestorm, Kevin, over whether and when the federal government would release the Epstein files. The president, in fact, campaigned that he would release them. But, this is not going away as much as they want to kick the can down the road. That is not happening. So what then is administration? How are they going to deal with this? There's a high-level meeting expected to be known. So attending this meeting? Yeah, and this is a meeting we expect to take place today. It's between administration officials, including Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, Kash Patel, the FBI Director, but also a Republican member of Congress named Lauren Boebert. She's from Colorado, and she is one of a handful of Republicans who have said that they would join in this effort in the House of Representatives to compel the administration to release all of their documents and all of their information related to Jeffrey Epstein. Mike Johnson, who's the Republican House Speaker, has been trying to corral Republicans against this effort, and it had seemed as if they did not have the votes to do that until a special election. I know this is confusing. Until a special election occurred in Arizona, a Democrat won that election. Her name is Adelita Grijalva, and she has said that she will support this effort, and she would give the Democrats 218 votes in order to compel the administration to release these documents. What this meeting at the White House today seems to be is the administration trying to convince Lauren Boebert to back away from that effort. And if she does that, then they would not have the sufficient number of votes. But what we've heard from sources is that Lauren Boebert remains sort of stalwart in her convictions here. What Caroline Levitt said about this meeting was that it was merely an exercise in transparency as they try and sort of provide all of the information that they have to members of Congress. Which then led to the question if there's an interest of transparency, why not release the files in the first place? Interesting as well, we don't have time for this, but the leader, Grijaldo, of course, I'm seeing it in the last few moments, that Jeffrey Epstein survivors, Kevin, are expected to be in attendance at a swearing-in ceremony this afternoon. Really just shows the intensification of public pressure on the story. Kevin, appreciate it as always. Thank you very much indeed. Let me start with this breaking news and these new Epstein emails that have been released by the Democrats, which, like I said, mention Trump multiple times. How concerning will this be for the administration, which, time out of time has been trying to kick the can down the road and trying to make this go away? I frequently judge the reaction of the administration by how angry the Trump press secretary is, and she is very angry today and responded angrily to many of the questions about this. I can also tell that it's of concern because the House Republicans just released, according to the New York Times, 23,000 documents from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. Now, I don't know what's in them. I'm sure even the New York Times hasn't. But y'all just going to bypass the Clinton emails, though, right? Y'all talking about Trump, but what about Clinton, man? Everybody guilty, man. That's what I'm talking about, man. Politicians are evil, man. This is, man, this is nasty work, y'all. Nasty. And we don't know how the principals may have reacted to them, but they certainly raise some questions that need to be answered. If you're going to talk about Trump, talk about it all. Talk about the Clinton emails. You know, hey, man, I'm just saying, man. I think all of them guilty. You know, that's how I feel. I think everybody guilty. Man. 23,000 emails. CNN is trawling through them as well. Everyone going through them at the moment. But you're right. The response from the White House, from Caroline Leavitt, was part. It seems like the Democrats are throwing Obama under the bus because Obama was on that boat with that little Vietnamese little orphan chick. Yeah, man. I forgot about that. President Trump has always said is that forget about that. From Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. Now, the president, I think it's important for our international audience, Larry, the president campaigned, right, on the release of these Epstein files. And Caroline Leavitt there, when I heard her talking, she was talking in the interest of transparency and she was giving some details in terms of this high-level meetings taking place today. But in the interest of transparency, just explain to our viewers, why haven't they released the files? They say it's because they don't want to give Democrats an opportunity for a distraction from the key issues facing the country. Of course, Democrats say in return that many of the things that the Trump administration and President Trump himself have done in recent months, they are distractions from the Epstein files. So everybody can make up their own mind about that. But listen to what Carolyn Leavitt said. She said these emails, at least the few released by the Democrats, prove. Hey, Mama B. Peace and love. They do nothing of the sort. They don't prove he did anything. Right back at you. They don't prove he didn't do anything wrong. So we'll see what the other documents say, and there will be a lot of discussion about this, and possibly a vote in the House about it in the coming days. Just moments ago, the House voted to end the longest shutdown in U.S. history. The president expected to sign the bill later tonight. Meanwhile, with Democrats under fire in the Senate for voting to end the shutdown, today Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released emails from the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein that mentioned President Trump by name multiple times. Now, it's important to note law enforcement authorities have never accused Mr. Trump of wrongdoing in relation to Epstein. We mentioned some of the emails between Epstein and writer Michael Wolff. There are others, and one email sent in January 2017 that's just been released just after the 2018, Epstein called President Trump borderline insane in a exchange with former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers. But their relationship welcome, Mama B. Was not always so strained. Long before he became president, Trump told New York Magazine he'd known Jeffrey Epstein for 15 years and called him a terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side, Trump told the magazine. Over the years, the two have been spotted many times in public together. This NBC video shows Trump and Epstein socializing in 1992 at a party at Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. The video, released in 2019, shows Trump appearing to say to Epstein, "Look at her back there. She's hot," while Epstein smiles and nods. Former swimsuit model Stacey Williams, who dated Epstein in 1993, told CNN in an interview Trump was Epstein's wingman. They were best friends. They were very close and they were up to no good. The two men flew together as well. These flight logs show Trump traveled on Epstein's jet 4 times in 1993, twice in 1994, and once in 1995 and in 1997. The logs were made public during Ghislaine Maxwell's 2021 trial, where she was convicted of sex trafficking, among other things. Epstein also attended Trump's wedding to Marla Maples at New York's Plaza Hotel in 1993. In 1997, Trump added this personal note to Epstein inside a copy of his book, The Art of the Comeback. It reads, "To Jeff, you are the greatest," according to the New York Times. That same year, the two men were photographed together at Mar-a-Lago. This exclusive CNN video shows Epstein and Trump chatting in 1999 before a Victoria's Secret fashion show. Despite all of that, during a court deposition here in Palm Beach in 2010, Epstein refused to answer many questions about his association with Trump. And Trump has continued to try and distance himself from Epstein as recently as July. This was the story he told about kicking Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. We have people that work for me and I don't know anymore. More recently, Trump would answer about a letter bearing his name found in a birthday book created by Ghislaine Maxwell for Epstein's 50th birthday. The letter, according to the Wall Street Journal, contained the outline of a naked woman and a message. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. Trump denied authoring the letter and sued the journal for defamation. And it's not the way I speak. And anybody that's covered me for a long time know that's not my language. Randy Kay, CNN, Palm Beach County, Florida. I want to bring in two. At this point, does the House Oversight Committee have, to your knowledge, more than joining us now? A key member of the House Oversight Committee, Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas. She also sits on the House Judiciary Committee. Congresswoman, thanks very much for being here. Absolutely. At this point, does the House Oversight Committee have, to your knowledge, more documents to put out? Do you know more about what these documents may say about President Trump or other powerful politicians that the public does not know yet? Yeah, there's still more that committee staff is going through and determining what needs to be redacted before the release. And then we always consult with leadership on the Republican side as well before any drops are made public. And I fully anticipate that we will receive more, at least from the estate of Epstein. It does not seem like the Department of Justice has really been inclined to actually participate, which is one reason that we're talking about this discharge petition and talking about this vote. It's because we need something with a little bit more fire behind it to hopefully get the Department of Justice to finally start to cooperate. Why is it that Epstein's estate, I mean, the Todd Blanche, the that Epstein provided to Congress? Curtis, why? That's along with Todd Blanche. So here it is. He's like, well, I didn't have all the information. Well, sir, did you try to get the rest of the information? Do we know for sure that the Department of Justice didn't have this information? And if they didn't have this information, do we know whether or not they actually deleted this information? Do we know that there was a thorough investigation? Do we know whether or not the investigation had concluded when you're not don't know what the DOJ has, nor what it is that the DOJ potentially was trying to do. Considering that the president right now is trying to obstruct on some get a subpoena that says release all the information, I wouldn't be surprised, just like he obstructed taxpayer.
And they're off. Jumping. It's a blue dress painting. Cameras falls off quickly as a fat Bill Barr moves into position. And followed by the strongest bed sheets and the dumbest thing we've ever heard. And down the stretch they come. Panos run our government is pulling away from disappearing victims by a length. But coming in strong is no videos exist. But I saw the video and nothing is wrong. And at the wire, it's the media colluding with Epstein, a conspiracy to finish Trump. And who's the boss? Hey, what's up, David?
A absolutely catastrophic situation for Democrats yesterday when you could see some of the biggest nightmares of the first administration laid forth in the decision to allow Michael Wolff into the White House. Wolf, letting the wolves into the White House, letting the wolves into the sheep pasture or the chicken houses, as the old fables would go. The Aesop's fable, the wolf, never the good character. Michael Wolff, not a good character. And it turns out that this author and biographer spent many, many hours with Jeffrey Epstein colluding as to how to get Trump. And yet the first administration let this guy in to go profile Trump and write this massive hit job. It shows you the difference in administrations. We should be thankful for learning. Nobody lives a perfect life. I do not live a perfect life. I constantly have to get roasted inside of this company, in the chat, for doing things that I'm like frankly ashamed of, right? Like you make mistakes. And this was a massive mistake. And Democrats revealed that this week in the release of Jeffrey Epstein emails. That this author, Michael Wolff, this guy who's like out there with all these sordid and salacious claims against Donald Trump, this man was colluding directly with Jeffrey Epstein to see how they could use Jeffrey Epstein and his sick predator pedophilia in order to harm Trump. You can see it in the backfire, one of the most historic backfires we've ever seen. I guess we should start, ladies and gentlemen, with the biggest backfire, which is the claim that. All right, welcome back in here to Live Now from Fox. I am Andy Mack. Thank you so much for joining us. A big change for small change. After more than 200 years, the U.S. Mint will no longer be making pennies. The Treasury pressed its last batch yesterday at a mint in Philadelphia. We're going to be joined right now by Fox's Asher Red on the ground in Nashville, Tennessee. Asher, some businesses say they won't be able to make exact change. What are you hearing? Well, Andy, in February, President Trump told the Treasury to stop making pennies because it costs too much. So in May, the U.S. Mint ordered its last batch of penny blanks, which are made right here in Tennessee. And now some businesses, particularly restaurants, say they're already starting to lose pennies, and they're wondering what to do about it. U.S. Treasurer Brandon Beach pressed the last penny Wednesday morning. Just over the last 10 years, production for a single penny has tripled while the demand has plummeted. But some folks in the restaurant business are left asking what they should do if they don't have enough pennies to make change. There's a lot of confusion for customers and restaurants alike on how to pay change. Can you round up? Can you round down? But that could raise a legal issue since laws in some parts of the country require businesses to give customers exact change. The restaurant industry is trying not to make this a math quiz for every customer. However, McDonald's locations in certain parts of the country have started rounding cash transactions to the nearest nickel. The company says in part, quote, following the discontinuation of pennies nationwide, some McDonald's locations may not be able to provide exact change. We have a team actively working on long-term solutions to keep things simple and fair for customers. There's also Love's Travel Stop, one of several roadside convenience stores rounding up change in the customer's favor. The company says it'll cover the difference. Meanwhile, some local retailers say they're not worried about being short of change. That's because last year, the Federal Reserve Financial Services reported the average person made 40 38 purchases a month, and only about 14% of those were in cash.
We do thousands in sales. It could just be a very small amount of that is actually cash sales.
And the government says it was spending nearly 4 cents just to make a single penny. And according to the U.S. Treasury, this could save taxpayers $56 million per year just in production costs if the government stays with getting rid of this of the penny. Now, of course, with the 300 billion pennies that are still in circulation, we still use those to make purchases. Andy?
All right, very interesting. And this penny, this final pennies might be worth more than just 1 cent. Is there any indication that they might use this as a memento of some kind? Because the last penny ever minted, it's got to be worth something, right?
What is going on, guys? It is WrestleMania here, back with some more news. Join us now as we look at the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including a major WrestleMania match revealed. Chris Jericho just buried AEW. Zelina Vega went off script during SmackDown. Brock Lesnar working War Games. SmackDown gets a rating surge. Trish Stratus has no regrets rejecting Playboy. A legend re-signs with WWE and much more. But before we get into the news, we want to pay our respects to Eddie Guerrero, as 20 years ago he would pass away at the age of 38. Eddie was a huge loss in the wrestling world, as he was one of the most charismatic wrestlers to ever step foot in the ring. Rest in peace, Eddie. But now let's hit the intro and get straight into our first story. Now, our top story looks ahead to WrestleMania 42, as it's been reported that WWE are beginning to piece together their plans for the biggest show of the year. Thanks to WWE Unreal, we now know that this is the time of year where WWE begins to draft a preliminary WrestleMania match card, and we know one of the matches WWE are discussing right now. According to Body Slam Plus via Patreon, WWE is discussing having Women's World Champion Stephanie McMahon defend against either Rhea Ripley or Becky Lynch. WWE has started to have discussions regarding WrestleMania 42 creative, and one of the discussions is who Stephanie McMahon could potentially be facing in a WrestleMania debut. Sources indicate to Body Slam that Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch have been discussed as potential opponents for McMahon at WrestleMania. There's plenty of time between now and April when WrestleMania takes place, so a lot can change. As we saw with the WWE Unreal series, these potential matches have at least been brought to the table. Both Ripley and Lynch will be considered matches, and as things stand, Ripley seems like the most sensible option, as Lynch is in the midst of a highly successful reign as Women's Intercontinental Champion, and maybe in WWE's best interest to have a walk in WrestleMania with the gold around her waist. There are countless big money matches for Lynch outside of her hair, and a match versus the likes of Io Sky could potentially steal the entire weekend. There's also a singles match versus AJ Lee, but with it being reported that AJ is said to be part of War Games later this month, they may end up delivering the match before WrestleMania 42. This is truly one of the most exciting times of the year as a WWE fan, as this is the time of the year where endless reports surface related to WrestleMania plans. Too long before we know info related to what matches WWE are planned for the two respective men's world titles. Next up, Chris Jericho just buried AEW. All signs certainly point towards wrestling legend Chris Jericho making a return to WWE programming. Jericho's AEW deal is set to expire next month, and there have been teasers on both sides that Jericho is re-signing with the company. Yesterday, a new episode of Talk is Jericho dropped, and fans believe that Jericho basically confirmed his AEW exit on the podcast, but in the process, he also buried them as well. During the episode, Jericho would state that TNA at Bound for Glory managed to look like the second biggest wrestling company in the world. Jericho mentioned, which has now been edited out of his upload, that was one thing. Two, that effing crowd looked huge. It looked huge. It was like a WWE level crowd. The place was packed. I was watching this and not saying anything out of school here, but comparing it to watching Dynamite when they were at the ECW arena, which looked like a Tony Condello taping. Sorry, it did. TNA looked like the second biggest company in the world, and that was amazing. The presentation was amazing. In relation to when fans could expect a Jericho return, due to the legalities of his AEW contract, he will be unable to wrestle in the John Cena tournament. However, he'll likely be available for a return at the Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. Naturally, this will mean that a WrestleMania matchup is likely on the cards for the first ever WWE Undisputed Champion. Next up, nobody noticed that Zelina Vega went off script on SmackDown. Now, Zelina Vega was put in the spotlight on SmackDown with a huge segment with WWE Champion Cody Rhodes. But it also turns out that Vega went off script during the segment, as when she slapped Rhodes, she decided to state, "That's for Sinner." This dedication wasn't in the initial SmackDown script. Sinner is an internet personality that has appeared in Vegas Twitch streams and has even joked that
who she is, that's unlikely that Vega got in any kind of trouble for going off script, especially as her dedication wasn't picked up on the live mic. Zelina is also teaching Sinner how to wrestle, and she's taking some pretty good shots in the ring, even with some heavy chops. Are you gonna go hard? Love me too. That was like a 30. What are you gonna go up to? I don't know. Like 60. Okay. 60? Okay, alright. Oh
Oh.
my fucking god! Holy shit! Why did you do that? Next up is Drew McIntyre joining Division. Drew McIntyre being off WWE television to film a movie is reportedly incorrect, and it's said that McIntyre is still set to be part of WWE programming moving
Oh
forward.
wow.
In relation to
Drew
McIntyre's future
McIntyre,
plans,
man.
according to Ibu of Self-Made on X,
It's crazy.
he's being discussed for War Games, which would naturally put him in Team Vision. A lot of fans were confused as to why Cody Rhodes was included in Team CM Punk, but if WWE does indeed plan on using McIntyre for a role in Team Vision, then this makes all the sense in the world. WWE is still no doubt going to have one final match between Rhodes and McIntyre, but it's unclear if WWE has any plans to crown McIntyre. The stop-and-start pushes for him have truly hurt his momentum in 2025. It wouldn't come as a surprise for McIntyre to fail in his attempts to reach the top of WWE once more. Next up is Brock Lesnar working War Games. Speaking of War Games, it was previously reported that Austin Theory and Brock Lesnar were going to be on the heel side of things, but now according to Dave Meltzer on the latest Wrestling Observer Radio, plans have changed for this due to Fatu's injury, but the angles involving Theory and Lesnar could be coming in the next few weeks. The men's match was to be CM Punk and Jey Uso and Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu, neither Jimmy Uso or LA Knight in the final spot, versus Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed and
And they
Brock
don't know
Lesnar
how
and
to
Austin
write
Theory.
nothing,
If
man.
Fatu is out, then it would make
They
sense
need
for it
better
to be
writers.
Knight and Jimmy Uso. With Rollins out, we know Logan Paul is in that spot, but nothing on television yet has indicated or or theory, but those angles would be upcoming in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Nearly all THC products would be banned here in Texas and many other states if a new rule buried in the federal spending bill passes the House tomorrow. The funding bill would reopen the government after the shutdown, but it also closes a loophole that triggered the widespread growth of the THC industry. David Henry spoke to some business owners about that ban and what it would mean in Texas and to them. David. Yes, even Heather, this flew under the radar, and now what Texas lawmakers spent months debating might be decided just within a matter of days at the federal level. Why do they now want the American public to have access to this? Why? Chris Fagan owns The Hippie in Garland, a shop selling all sorts of items, including THC hemp, a product which has federal lawmakers talking. Why that would be used as leverage to open the government. On Monday evening, U.S. senators passed a spending bill moving one step closer to ending the government shutdown, but language unexpectedly added to the bill would criminalize hemp-derived THC products.
That should be against the law. That should be criminal. Just putting provisions in the bill before it gets passed underneath the radar that will involve businesses and their livelihoods. Man, this is criminal, man.
Highly regulate
This
products.
is some criminal stuff, man.
Banning THC has split some Republicans. On Tuesday,
That's
Lieutenant
crazy.
Governor Dan Patrick reheated his favor of a ban, posting to X, "I believe this ban will save a generation from getting hooked on dangerous drugs." Meanwhile, Republican U.S. Senator Rand Paul, whose amendment to drop the THC ban from the spending bill failed, spoke about the bill banning hemp even with amounts of THC so low that people do not feel a high. The numbers put forward in this bill will eliminate 100% of the hemp products in our country. That amounts to an effective ban because the limit is so low that the products intended to manage pain or anxiety will lose their effect. The U.S. House of Representatives will now debate the bill and language. President Trump would need to sign a final version. In Texas, veterans groups regularly spoke in support of THC hemp products. And we provide a 30% discount for all veterans. Fagan is a veteran who says people frequent his store not to get high, but to heal. And so we have a large population that is looking for natural remedies that are pharmaceutical based. It's going to funnel a giant black market, which is going to hurt a lot of people. If you're wondering how your senators here in Texas feel about this, Senator Ted Cruz opposed that language that would ban hemp THC. He believes it's more of a state matter. Senator John
is on board with it. We'll keep following the story. But for now, Steve and Heather, back to y'all. Okay, thanks. Very much information. Thank you. New tonight, our 13 Investigates team is digging into a surprising addition to the funding bill that just reopened the federal government. And this could have a disastrous impact on a growing industry here in Indiana. And for you and your neighbors, it could also make it a lot. See, this affected everywhere, man. It's affecting people in Indiana, Texas, everywhere, man. Like, determined that this impacts a lot of people. Yes, it needs to be a civil war, man. It needs to be a revolution. The government has to stop their. They lost. They lost all sense of humanity, man. Like, and at the same time, thousands of jobs across the state are at risk. From farms to laboratories to store shelves. Hemp products are a big business in Indiana. These gummies, vapes, drinks, and other products contain relatively small amounts of THC, but some of them can still give you the same type of high as marijuana. They're largely considered legal after Congress passed the 2018 Farm. That's crazy, man. Y'all are weird. It can also take away. And these people are weirdos. What just happened when lawmakers voted to reopen the government? The bill is passed. The motion is adopted. Tucked inside hundreds of pages of this funding bill, wording that would greatly reduce the total amount of Delta 9 THC allowed in hemp products. What would this bill do to your business? It would close our business. And what we're doing today and what we've done for the last 6 years would be recriminalized. It seems like a complete failure of justice there. Adam Klein is owner of Heartland Harvest, an Indiana company that makes beverages containing hemp. Our products are found in grocery stores, in restaurants, at liquor stores. Adam has spent 6 years and more than $6 million to farm and produce his hemp products in northern Indiana. He currently has 18 workers with plans to triple that next year. All of that is now in jeopardy based on new language inserted into the government spending bill just a few hours before senators voted on it. It feels like a failure of democracy is what it feels like. This bill was about restarting the government. But the way that this was done without industry feedback was pretty disheartening. This is a huge setback for just cannabis reform efforts in general. Justin Swanson is president of the Midwest Hemp Council. He says the farming, production, and sale of hemp products now accounts for approximately 350,000 jobs across the nation. Jobs that could soon disappear. It sounds dramatic, but at the end of the day, this language that's in the bill is going to wipe out every single one of those employees and all of that in the entire marketplace. The language is so broad, it criminalizes the act of even processing hemp into oil. Supporters of the new law say limiting the amount of THC in hemp products is necessary because the 2018 Farm Bill created a loophole allowing highly intoxicating products to be sold with little regulation. The industry's been very clear. We're at the table. We want regulations. We just need someone to work with. The Midwest Hemp Council has been trying to get more regulations passed at the Indiana State House, but year after year, state lawmakers have failed to act. Now, the people who produce, sell, and use these products have an even bigger challenge: new limits on hemp that could kill the entire industry. We've got work ahead of us. Obviously, we're not giving up, but it did put us on our heels as, we've got employees and their families who rely on this business existing. The new hemp regulation does not go into effect for a full year at this point, so that gives producers and consumers a chance to try to convince Congress to change its mind, and we will certainly be following this. Oh yeah, we definitely gonna be changing minds. Oh yeah, we definitely gonna be changing minds, and we definitely gonna be calling out y'all politicians who voted against this, especially Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, your days are numbered, dog. We will certainly be following this and reporting what happens next. All right, Bob. Your days are numbered, man. Yeah, your days are numbered, dog. Evil, evil man. But I'm about to eat. I got the munchies. I might be back, I might not, but appreciate y'all who stopped by.